Welcome back to another explainer. Today we're diving into something absolutely wild: why sloths survive jungle dangers. We're heading deep into one of the most hyper-competitive, predator-dense ecosystems on the entire planet, the Amazon rainforest. Let's get right into it and see exactly how survival plays out in this intense theater of shadows, a place where explosive speed and brute force seem like the literal only ways to avoid becoming someone's lunch. Okay, let's dive into this. To truly grasp the sheer danger of the Amazon, you've got to look at its apex predators, right? Take the jaguar. This is a massive cat that hunts in absolute silence. It stalks through that thick, dense vegetation until it's just a few meters away from its target. But actually, instead of going for the neck like most other big cats, the jaguar often directs its bite straight at the prey's skull. It can silently pierce the hard shell of a reptile in mere seconds. We're talking about a terrifying bite force that can exceed 1,500 newtons. To put that into perspective, that figure surpasses even the mighty tiger when you look at it in proportion to their body weight. And, well, the jaguar isn't the only giant lurking around. Let's look at the true sovereign of the still waters, the black caiman. This armored giant is an absolute beast, weighing in at over 400 kilograms and stretching up to 5 meters in length. It's literally the largest predator in the entire alligator family. When some unsuspecting animal wanders just a bit too close to the shoreline, this giant reacts with an explosive burst of speed, dragging its target back down into the dark depths. With a bite force estimated at several thousand newtons, the black caiman leaves its prey with virtually zero chance of escape. So, with jaguars that can literally crush a skull and 400-kilogram caimans patrolling the waters, we really have to ask the core question of this explainer. How on earth does an animal moving at an agonizingly slow 0.24 kilometers per hour survive here? Seriously, think about that speed. That is slower than the average person crawling on their hands and knees. How does a tiny 4 to 5 kilogram creature avoid absolute extinction in a jungle this violent and this unforgiving? I mean, it seems completely counterintuitive. In a world ruled by explosive speed, heavy armor, and crushing jaws, this animal just shouldn't stand a chance. And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer, almost comical contrast we're looking at today. On one side, we've got the brute force of the Amazon, the explosive ambush speeds of the caiman, the 1,500 newton bite of the jaguar, their massive body weights, and those hyper-aggressive hunting tactics. And then on the exact opposite side, we have the sloth. Suspended up in the branches several meters above the ground, this creature is tiny in comparison, moves at an absolute crawl, and frankly appears completely defenseless. But as we're going to see, what looks like a glaring biological weakness is actually a profound evolutionary masterpiece. But before we figure out exactly how they survive, let's look at who's actually hanging out up there in the canopies. In the tropical treetops, you basically have two major groups within this family. First, you've got the three-toed sloths, scientifically known as Bradypus, which stands out because its face holds this almost permanent, kind of hilarious expression of total calm. Then you've got the two-toed sloth of the genus Calliplus. Now, the Calliplus family is slightly larger and actually possesses a slightly faster metabolism than their three-toed cousins. But regardless of their specific family tree, they both share this fundamental biological foundation that totally defies the fast-paced logic of the jungle. Now, what's really interesting about this is that their incredible pace of life is actually totally dictated by their internal biology. It all starts with their diet, which is primarily just leaves, shoots, and flowers. Because this food source provides so little energy, their bodies are forced to process it incredibly slowly. Guys, a single digestive cycle can take up to several weeks to complete. To survive on this ultra-low energy fuel, their bodies have to maintain an exceptionally slow metabolism, which then results in an unusually low body temperature for a mammal, hovering just between 30 to 34 degrees Celsius. So they aren't just choosing to be lazy, their fundamental biology absolutely demands it. But here is where it gets crazy. This extreme biological slowness opens the door to an incredible form of camouflage. Because they are so incredibly still and move so little, the sloth's thick fur actually acts as a host for living colonies of microscopic algae. That's right, they literally grow a garden on their own backs. This natural algae gives their fur a characteristic green tint, meaning they're essentially wearing a biological ghillie suit right there among the lush canopy leaves. So to a predator rapidly scanning the treetops from above or below, the sloth doesn't even look like a meal. It simply looks like a clump of moss or a shadow hidden in the branches. So the crucial point is we really need to completely reframe how we think about slowness. It isn't a vulnerability at all. In the Amazon, predators like harpy eagles and jaguars have highly evolved eyes specifically designed to detect quick, frantic movement. If you run, you trigger their lethal predatory instincts. By mastering biological immobility, the sloth has turned low-energy stillness into a highly evolved survival weapon. It's a tactical shield against the motion-tracking eyes of the jungle's most dangerous hunters. They survive precisely because they are just too slow to trigger a predator's radar. Let's move on and see how this builds to their one major, completely unavoidable vulnerability. You see, about once a week, this master of the canopy does something incredibly risky. It slowly descends down to the dangerous, predator-filled forest floor just to fulfill its physiological needs. I mean, honestly, risking your life just to use the restroom once a week is a terrifying commitment. This highly exposed behavior puts them directly in the path of those terrestrial predators we talked about earlier. But scientists believe this bizarre ritual fulfills an essential ecological function. By doing this, they literally fertilize the soil around the base of the very tree they live in, which in turn promotes the growth of the algae that will later colonize their fur. It's a scary yet beautifully balanced cycle of life. Now, if they happen to actually get cornered during this risky descent, they aren't entirely without a defense. Despite visually appearing terribly weak and practically helpless on the ground, those several centimeter-long curved claws are formidable tools. Normally, they just function as natural hooks that effortlessly hold their entire body weight while they're suspended high up in the trees. But when necessary, those exact same claws can generate considerable defensive force. It's just enough hidden strength to help them stay safe and cling tightly to their surroundings without ever needing to rely on the impossible task of running away. It's honestly a true David versus Goliath story of the natural world. And the source material sums up this biological lesson perfectly. Survival does not always depend on speed or brute force, but on the ability to adapt to one's own rhythm. The sloth doesn't try to outrun the jaguar. It doesn't try to outmuscle the caiman. It wins the ultimate survival game simply by completely refusing to play by the fast-paced, aggressive rules of its predators. So, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought as we wrap up today's explainer. If the slowest, seemingly most vulnerable animal can conquer the deadliest jungle on Earth simply by adapting to its own biological rhythm, what hidden strengths might we be overlooking in nature's quietest creatures? Sometimes, true resilience isn't about being the loudest, the fastest, or the most heavily armored. Sometimes it's just about mastering the art of absolute stillness. Keep questioning what true strength really looks like, and we'll see you in the next explainer.